In an active, structured spiritual life, we have to take what is ideal and what is practical. And very often, the reality is somewhere in between. Ideally, of course, there are traditionally 4 auspicious moments to practice in a dedicated way. A dedicated way means all spiritual practice is a question of constant remembrance. It is bringing the mind up to speed so that it is continuously polished, making the mind as pure as possible in any given moment. That's the ideal. Actually, if the ideal is met, there's no specific time, because it's all constantly like that. No more than you say, okay, so you're going to go maybe in the afternoon to Hoth, a seaside town, and then supposing you lived in that place, then there's no necessity to visit there. You're constantly there. Supposing your abode is God, then there's no need to constantly say when we revisit. It's always there. So that's called a kind of fixture, fixing the mind, fixing the attention on that same entity, so that there is constant remembrance automatically and effortlessly. That's an ideal. How do you get to that position? We have to deliberately structure in such a way that we use the events around us to help us to remember. That is why society has things like festivals, birthdays. Supposing you have a distant cousin and you don't make contact with her on a daily basis. But once a year in your calendar is there, oh, it's so-and-so's birthday. So you phone the person up or you email them or something like that and you give them some greetings. At least once a year you manage to remember that person. Maybe twice a year, Christmas. Christmas and birthdays, you're managed. So when things are at a different distance, that means when other things crowd in such a way that it's not possible to completely remember something, then you do that. So spiritual practice has this dimension to it, that society has structured festivals so that it forces you in a way to remember. It's society's way of saying, all right, so you forgot most of the year, but at least at harvest time you remember, or at Easter time you remember, or at Christmas time you remember, or Krishna's birthday you remember, or Buddha's birthday you remember, or at Jagadish you remember. So twice monthly you have that opportunity. So at some point or other, these are mechanisms to allow us to say, well, at least from time to time we can do it. 12th chapter. So it begins like this with a question which is related to the issue. So Arjuna is asking, he says, those devotees who ever steadfast worship you, and those again who worship the imperishable, the unmanifest, which of these are better versed in yoga? In yoga means in this practice of concentrating the mind, fixing the mind on the Supreme. So this is not directly related to our issue, but it leads there, because both are good, both are necessary. But then the question gets led to, having restrained all the senses, even minded everywhere, engaged in the welfare of beings, those people who worship the imperishable, they also come to me, but their difficulty is greater. And then the next thing comes, fix your mind on me alone is the personal way. Let your thoughts dwell in me. You will hereafter live in me alone. Of this there's no doubt. This is an ideal. So it goes like that. You see, in me, Mai, Eva, only, Manaha, the mind. So Maya Eva, Mana, Adatsa, that means fixing, Mai, in me. And then with what? Buddhim, with the intellect. So like that, we have set an ideal, fix your mind. But then the practicality comes in. If you are, and Krishna anticipates this, that I can fix my mind on God? No, it's not that easy. I have all kinds of issues and difficulties and problems demanding my attention. So what happens if I can't do that is a question. And Krishna anticipates this. If you're not able to do this fixing steadily on me, not just erratically, but steadily, then reach me by abhyasa yoga. Abhyasa yoga, very important term. Constant remembrance. And we have to use some techniques for constant remembering. Japa is a way to do it. How often should we repeat our mantra? Mantra, what is it? Protecting thought. We should do it constantly all the time. It should be continuously in our minds. Lovingly repeating God's special name that has a potency given by a guru. Or if that's not present, then any other phrase that is meaningful for you. See? Lord, Lord, saying that. If your cousin, therefore, was ill, and you only contacted them once or twice a year, and then you come to know they're ill, and you played together as children, and now you're remembering that closeness that you have, then that constant name and image of the person will be on your mind. Constant remembrance. Constant remembrance because everywhere you look is a reminder, or can be a reminder. What is the sky? It's a reminder of the vastness, the limitlessness of the beloved, the infinite nature of the beloved. This is why many images of the Supreme are personalized in a blue form. Vishnu is blue, blue skin. Krishna is blue skin. It reminds us of not only the personality in front, but the transcendent aspect too. What is the Lord? The Lord has immanent and transcendent aspects. The Lord is in everything, through everything, ultimately as everything, says our Vedanta. So everything, everywhere you look should be a reminder. This constant practice. That's why mantra, you see, is literally a protecting thought. It comes from the same root, manas, mind. So that by constantly repeating this mantra, it preempts many things and keeps you mindfully in an alignment with the Supreme. But other methods are there to remind us. Religious festivals are there to remind us. And when they're aligned with seasons, that's so. Every day can be a reminder. You know, the days of the week are named essentially after planetary bodies. Today is Sunday. That means the Prime Minister today is the sun. The sun is ruling. Tomorrow is Monday, Moon's Day. The moon is the Prime Minister. Each one gets a turn. The moon's influence is there. Tuesday belongs to, Tuesday belongs to Mars. Wednesday belongs to Mercury. Thursday belongs to Jupiter. Friday belongs to Venus. Saturday is Saturn's day. Saturn becomes the Prime Minister and jostles the other way out, the others out. So in the same way, every day of the week can remind us of God's reflected glory. Every tree, every flower, every person, every breath they take, every breath you take can be a reminder of this. So that's the next best thing. But is there any other course? What if you can't even practice that? So he anticipates it, see? Abhyasepya samarthasi. If you are unable even to practice this constant remembrance, this constant practice, this abhyas yoga, be you intent on doing actions for my sake. So every action that you do becomes a sacred action. And you're doing it not with your own energy, but with the Lord's energy, and the fruits belong to Him. So when Jesus talks about the vineyard and laborers in the vineyard, He's comparing this. Who's the owner of the vineyard? It's the Lord of the universe. And you think it's your vineyard. You think it's your field of endeavor. You think you're entitled to the fruits. No. That's what we think, and that's what the Lord allows us to think. But the truth is, it belongs to Him. We have no energy of our own independently. It's all God's energy. All divine energy is what we're using. His food creates the metabolism for it. He makes it. So we have to be aware of that. So if be intent on doing actions for my sake, that is the personal God, even by performing actions for my sake, you will get your perfection. In the long run, it takes each variation takes a slightly longer period of time, but we have to be satisfied with our limited capability. Where are we standing now is the start of your spiritual practice and endeavor. So there we are. But what if you can't even do that? Sri Krishna anticipates. If you're not even able to do this, then take refuge in me. Abandon the fruits of all action with yourself subdued. So it was that Girish Chandragus, he claimed he couldn't do any form of spiritual practice, meditation. Think of God at least before food. No, I'm a busy person. I can't even think of God there. There's an easy way of thinking of God. You have to take food. So before you take food, you can think of God. There's an easy way of thinking. Or before bathing, or both. Then it triggers off a memory. I should think of God. And Girish Chandragus said, I can't do that. It's all right. Then, ultimately, what it was, give me your power of attorney. I'll do it for you. Girish Chandragus was enormously relieved. So I don't have to do anything? No. My Bohemian lifestyle doesn't allow me to do anything. That's right, I'll do it for you. But what it means really is you have no will of your own. Once Girish said, I'll do this tomorrow, I'll see you. No, you have no entitlement to think that or say that. Don't forget, you gave me all your decision making. Then he realized this taking refuge in God is not as easy as you think. It's not a letting go, in a sense. It's letting go your personal capacity to do things, but has a realization attached to it. I have nothing of my own. Once I take refuge in God, He's the one that does it. Like a cat grasping a kitten and moving the kitten. Kitten has no say in it. No sense of independence, completely dependent on God. So this idea in devotion of taking refuge in the divine is a very beautiful and common idea. And it comes up in hymns and prayers time and time again. Let me take refuge in you. Who can I take refuge in? Who else? The materialist will take refuge in materialism, drugs, food, pleasures of various kinds. But the spiritual devotee will say, let me take refuge in you. You can be my umbrella. You can be my protector. You carry me from place to place. I let go and you do it. All problems are not mine anymore. You're like taking a telephone call. Hello, hello. Lord is for you. Everything like that. Just surrendered like that. Take refuge in me, abandon the fruits of all actions. There's no point in saying, Lord, all this is yours. And all this, I take complete refuge in you. You are my everything, my all in all. But all these actions, I'll enjoy the fruits, the results, the effects. No, because they belong to the true owner of the vineyard. Use Jesus' language. So, these are not mine. I give all these fruits to you. Every action has its consequence, and these consequences or effects or fruits. Fruits because when you plant a fruit tree, it yields something. If you go with the idea, I myself planted the seed. I myself put the nutrients in the soil. I myself am entitled to the apples. You forgot some important ingredients. That without the air and the sunshine you couldn't manage. Without the potential in the seed, which is God put there, nothing happens. And without the idea of planting it, nothing happens. And the growth then comes from within. There's an ingenuity in the plant that says that growth comes from inside. I know how to unfold this seed into a tree. And I know how to sustain myself. There's a picture that Swami Vimokshananda actually showed me, and it's here in Dublin somewhere. Constitution Hill, I don't exactly know where that is. King's Inn, Constitutional Hill. Anyway, there's a tree there that somebody put a bench in the way. It's so old. And the tree decided, we can use this language, to grow around the bench and almost embrace the bench and incorporate the bench into its own growth. How does a tree know how to do this? And it's no good saying trees have no brains, you are not entitled to use that language. What else can we say? A response like that and growing around it, knowing how to face the sun, knowing how to compete and jostle for competing foliage. How does it know how to do this scientific process of photosynthesis, something that you and I can't do? We take the effects of it. We munch and crunch on the carbohydrates produced. So none of us can do this. It was Sir Jagadish Chandragus who was so supported by Sister Nivedita in recognizing his hard work. He was a polymath. That means he did important biological research in response of plants with various experimentation. And he was also interested in electromagnetism, and he really was responsible for the radio that we use today, mobile phones and so on. He preempted all of that and did extremely important work. And when Sister Nivedita brought him here to Dublin, he gave some papers, read some papers or presented some papers on important work to do with radio waves, electromagnetism, things like this. It was Sister Nivedita who actually wrote the papers, helped him write the English on the papers for him. So he discovered every plant has a kind of sensitivity even without a neurological system. We think that to be conscious and knowing, to be a proper thinking and responding and intelligent organism, mechanism, you require a central nervous system. Plants don't have it. And yet they can feel, they can respond. And the mystics know it. See how Sri Ramakrishna was so sensitive to it, he couldn't even walk on grass. He felt the grass crying out. He felt the pain of the grass. We are nurturing there a Tulsi plant. And the Tulsi plant, you can see whether it's unhappy or whether it's happy. You can see how it's happy when the sun shines on it. How all the plant is orientated toward the outside, it's sitting on a windowsill. It's all orientated to the outside. If it was haphazard, you'd find it equally orientated toward the inside. But all its leaves and many branches, we can say, its stems, all are facing toward the sunshine, responding to that. And when the leaves get brown, you put more water in and preempt it as much as you can in that, you see. It knows, it becomes very happy. That's the only way of describing it. A happy plant is there. See? So don't tell me that plants are not conscious. They know what's going on. And more accurately, it's the inner essence that knows and manifests. The whole of life, if you can take it in a holistic way, it manifests according to what obstacles are in the way, is the yogic way of looking at it. So take refuge in me and the fruits of all actions. With what? With my sense of doership and actor, the prophet-actor complex, that aspect subdued in me. It puts it in this way, see. So the fruits of action, see, sarva karma para tyagam. All the fruits of actions renounced. Tataha, then, Guru do yadatmavan, self-control, that is another way of saying, with myself subdued, that kind of thing. Not having any idea that this is mine and I'm doing this. So some options are always presented. These options are there. Fix your mind on me. No, I can't do that. All right, then constant practice, constant remembrance of me with a sense of thankfulness. No, I don't think I can even do that. Well, then all your activities offer to me and offer the fruits to me. At least that everybody can do. So this is a very practical example of saying, here's an ideal somewhere, and we can't necessarily match up to that. So let's step back and see what can we manage, how much can we manage. And then whatever we can manage, we go along that line and we soon find out we can manage a little bit more. We can go at least from there. If you offer all the fruits of your activities and take refuge in the Lord, then it soon becomes evident then that you'll be thinking of that divine presence in a more loving way, more frequently. That itself leads to a steady remembrance. And ultimately that leads to fixing the mind that is steadily being attuned to the divine on a constant basis, on a steady basis. We have to start somewhere. We're starting now. Your spiritual life starts now, this second. And sometimes before that we have to take stock. Where are we now? And in the evenings is a good place to take stock. Where are we now? How was my day? You'll be reviewing it anyway. All the activities will be fresh in your mind anyway. And then in a quiet moment, probably in a busy household when the children are in bed, then in a private moment, just you and the Lord of the universe, you and your Ishtadevata, you and your most beloved personal ideal can sit together, mentally have a cup of tea and review. This is a spiritual activity. This is as much meditation as anything else. This is as much a spiritual practice as anything else. You and the Lord, or you, whatever your Ishtadevata is, it can be male, can be female, neutral, whatever it is, sitting together and enjoying each other's company and reviewing the day, the God-given day together, and then at the end of the day offering all the fruits of your activities Godwards. What a wonderful thing. And then when you lay your head on the pillow, mentally putting your head on the divine lap and drift away, allowing the Lord to manage all the physical and psychological and emotional events that are within you, renewing all your cells, cells of the body, catering for all the problems. You know, when we shut the eyes, we don't shut the problems out, because the problems are there settled on the unconscious mind. And when we dream, it's the unconscious mind that displays all of these things in such a useful way, with God managing it, providing all the solutions. That's why in the Enneagram course we do the dream interpretation. See? All the problems that come out to do with the Enneagram in this case, the solutions get provided there also in the dream. So there's a section of dream which in Jungian psychology called problem-solving types of dreams, wish-fulfilling types of dreams, what we don't allow ourselves to do in our waking state, we think we are allowed to do in a dream. So supposing it's not possible to travel to Mars, then maybe you have a dream about walking or floating around on Mars, supposing you have a liking for that. So in this way. And then of course we have more profound dreams provided by the inner Lord, and the Lord of all that reigns over all our psychological states. And then we find that maybe there is some kind of future enhancing or future projecting, future creating dream, some kind of prophetic dream we could have. So there are various types of dreams which are there. Sometimes there's a repetitive dream, or a dream whereby, because you're repeating some activities in the day, then that repetition comes, that repetitive feeling comes in a dream also. See, many people have a dream of going to a cliff and suddenly falling. You know, many people have a dream of wanting to get to a place and never getting there, walking and walking, never getting to the destination. These are common dreams that are to do with a frustrated conscious mind which is there. And the Lord is managing it all, sorting all this out, sorting all your digestion out, repairing your cells, and waking you up in the morning. Come on, let's get up for another day of worship, conscious worship. What a beautiful thing. So we manage our spiritual life according to our own individual capacity. And if we don't do like that, then we'll be stressed about spiritual life itself. We'll think that spiritual life is an achieving thing. And any form of anxiety is no longer spirituality, it's negativity. Spiritual life is all positive, joyful, delightful. And where sorrow comes, that also we present and say, Lord, you manage it. I have a limit, you only gave me a limited scope. But you have an unlimited capability. Why don't I hand it to you? How will I manage this? Oh, give it to the one that spins all the galaxies. This is nothing. We have a huge issue, a problem. We blow it up and exaggerate it, and worry and anxiety does it for us. And then compare ourselves to how the Lord is managing all the universes and so on. And if we think, oh, I'll manage it by myself. You go to an entity that has the capability of spinning all the galaxies and creating from nowhere all the galaxies. So we told a story on Tuesday in relation to chapter 8 of the Bhagavad Gita, explaining the vastness of our reckoning of time versus the cosmic mind version of it, what we call Brahma, and seeing how that gets managed. And the story is there about Indra, who became so proud because he's chief of the gods. And in his position, he gets the cosmic architect, Vishwakarma, to design a huge palace. No other person did it before. And there are many Indras, and no Indra did it before. And each addition to the house, the palace, was beautiful but unsatisfactory. The Indra had a craving, another wing, another extension, another beautiful garden here, another series of pillars there. If you see something like the Mongol gardens, or the gardens maybe in Iran, around mosques and things, with beautiful patterns and beautiful architectural structure. You think, for example, of the Taj Mahal. Have you ever seen Taj Mahal?
Pictures.
You've seen pictures, yeah. You see its reflection in the water. It's beautiful because of its symmetry. Do you know what symmetry is? It's just equal on all sides. It's like taking something and putting it by a mirror. You'll see two things there, two images there. So there's a beauty in symmetry. Even your face is not half a face. There's one eye there and one eye there. And it doesn't look like it really. So if you put your hand in front and close one eye, all right, you do that. Close one eye now, okay? Which side of your face is the hand on? Now close the other eye. Oh, did it shift? Yes. But did it really shift? No. It's just because you closed one eye and then closed the other one, and whichever eye you closed, it seemed to shift on that side. Interesting, yeah? Yeah. But did it really move across? Did you go like this or go like that? You didn't do it. Yeah. This is called optical illusion. Now, when we use both eyes, then it's exactly in the center, where it should be, I suppose. Because if you take your nose and move it across like this, it should be in the center. Close one eye, close the other eye. Oh, it shifted across. If you bring me this one. No, yes, tablet there, that's right. Knowing that you would come, I thought maybe we'll give you some stories. So these stories require some questions. My first question to you is, where is God? If you don't answer with your mouth, just use your finger and point. Where is God? Oh, in a circle?
Everywhere.
She has the answer. She has the answer. Look at this. Yes, yes. She has the answer. You could probably put it here, point it here. Yes. Now there are people who tell you it's there, and they'll point upwards. That's also correct. But it's incomplete because it's there, you can't point in every direction. And the best thing to do is to point here. So there's a story of, in the Hindu way of thinking, there is the one that really creates the universe of art and science and knowledge everywhere, and music and dance, all of these things. We call this Mother Saraswati. And so anyhow, there is also Mother Saraswati is the wife of Brahma. Brahma is the creator. Because when we say Brah, it implies that something is expanding forever. It's not Brah, I'm cold. It's Brah, something wants to expand. That's the meaning of it. But anyhow, you find that like that, every aspect of God has a wife somewhere. It's made like that, you see. So, Shiva you've heard about. What does Shiva look like? Have you seen pictures of Shiva? When we start drawing a picture, we do it roughly first, like that. See? What do you think that's going to be? Huh? What do you think that's going to be? Now, this person has very wild hair, like this, flying out, like that. But yet a very calm face. Like that, see? So I won't draw completely, because what I'll leave it for you to do is, later, is to complete that. We'll have to give you something to stand on. Yeah? Yeah? Alright. And then we can start doing that. It's fine. So, see, Shiva, if you have a creation of the universe, a creation of everything, you'll have to have an end to it. But you'll also have to have something, some body that keeps it going. So you'll find in one hand there that you'll complete, there'll be a drum. And as long as that drum is being played, and as long as a dance is going on, this whole universe continues like that. Now for the adults, outside, the largest scientific laboratory in the world is called the Large Hadron Collider, and it spans 2 countries. So we can say it's pretty much in Switzerland, Geneva, not far from it. And a big tunnel, circular tunnel is there, with areas where you can monitor what's going on. And tiny, 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 what we call subatomic particles, what we call protons, are hurled at huge speed. Speed of light is 186,000 miles per second, and achieve something like 99% of that, almost the speed of light. And in doing that, we just smash particles like 2 trains smashing. It's not exactly aimed like that, it's just so many particles being projected out, sooner or later some crash will take place. And from that you'll find what happens. Many other particles are seen, or evidence of particles are seen. So we can study things like this at a very, very minute level. You can't even see it. You can't hardly detect it. You'll only detect it by its effects. And its effects are something like a vibration. So when this Lord Shiva does this dancing, it sends out vibrations like hair being sent out everywhere. Now he has a wife called Parvati, and another form of Shiva that is popular is Shiva meditating. But Parvati is his wife, and they have 2 children. Who are those children? Yes? Ganesha. And the other one? We can say Skanda, Kartikeya, these are various terms for it. Yeah. Kartikeya is very swift. He rides on a peacock. So, there was a challenge once. Who will circumambulate, that means go around the entire universe, wins a prize. Now, Ganesha is not very fast moving. You may have seen him, there's a park here, Victoria's Way. Have you seen big statues of Ganesha? You know, very heavy. So Ganesh doesn't move very quickly because he has a big belly. To be honest, he's fat. So he can't move. See, big like an elephant, and he has a head like an elephant too. Yeah. So now who will win? Who do you think will win? The swifter one will win, surely. See, Ganesha has this big elephant head that symbolizes wisdom, and also the capacity to remove obstacles. So he's a problem solver also. Anyway, Ganesha was very clever. Kartikeya immediately set off and swiftly went round the entire universe. Do you know how big this universe is? It's huge. Something like, the only universe we know is something like 90 billion light years across. That's a long way. It's a long way. See, 186,000 miles per second. Per second is that. That's the speed of light. And 60 seconds are there in a minute. This is our calculation. And 60 minutes in an hour. And 8 hours, see, in our calculation we say as a day because we only see the sun. And our relation to the sun, that's how we measure it. But a light year, we can't even conceive of it. But before he returned, Ganesha had circumambulated, had gone round the entire universe. How did he do it? He went round his mother Parvati, because she really is the entire universe. And he realized just by going around that, you'll go around the whole universe. So this way. So, that's one story. But once, you see, all the divine beings, what we call gods, really, it's not really God, it's just deities, you see, illuminating, shining things, shining factors, that have a governing role. They look after certain sections. They decided to carry out a great sacrifice. It was to be for the benefit and the vitality or health of the three worlds. There are three worlds. You see, there's a heaven or heavens, a region of heavens, a region of hells, not such good places, but also the earth in between. The sacrifice, which was to be especially advantageous to earth, was to be carried out by who? By Lord Brahma. So we have seen how Lord Shiva is a destroyer of that, but a creator is Brahma. He creates. How does he create? And what does he look like? What does he look like, do you think? He has a long white beard, see? But how many heads does he have?
4 or 5.
5 heads actually, yes. Because you've got the front, you've got the north, you've got the south, you've got the east, you've got the west, that's all directions. But what about up? Up and down are also directions. Anyway, regardless of how many heads, he can see everywhere, that's the point. So, how does he create? He creates by thinking. And the first thought that comes out, he speaks. And this speech makes the whole universe. So anyway, it was to be carried out by this Lord Brahma, the creator. Its successful completion was to bring prosperity and rain showers on earth. Because as you know, we can't get food unless we get rain. And we can't get rain unless we have people who are positive thinking people and make the rain happen. I have to find an appropriate place to conduct the sacrifice, thought Brahma. So his search took him to the forests near Pushkar. And as he walked into the forest, the trees recognized him. They whispered among themselves. Remember we were saying how the plants have great intelligence. Trees have great intelligence. And they were all whispering. They were having a bit of a scandal thing. Oh, isn't that Lord Brahma, our own creator? They shook their branches and they showered him with flowers. Now Brahma was very pleased by this gesture, and so he chose that place, Pushkar, as the site of the sacrifice. Immediately a pool of water came out, and a lake which is called Brahma Lake was formed. And to protect the site from demons, because wherever you have devas or deities, you have demons as well. You have to have them, because everything has to have a plus and everything has to have a minus, isn't it? Everything has to have a left side, everything has to have a right side. Yeah. So Brahma created 4 hills in the 4 different directions. In the north was a set of hills called Nilgiri Hills. And then in the south another set, Ratnagiri, Suryagiri, Sanchuda, west, so like that, north, south, east, west. Great preparations were made for the sacrifice, what we call yagya or yajna. Gods, sages, holy people, they all gathered in large numbers at the appointed day and time. And to guard the sacrifice, many of these deities positioned themselves on those very hills. Everything was set to start the sacrifice, but there was one big problem. What do you think that was? What do you think the problem was? Now I mentioned the real creating person is not Brahma, it's Saraswati. So who do you think was missing? Saraswati. She wasn't there. Nobody could see her. Nobody could find her. So she was nowhere to be seen. Where is Saraswati? Inquired a god. It is time to make the offerings as per all the ancient traditional rites. You see, both the husband and the wife, Brahma and Saraswati, they have to both be there. They have to make these offerings into the fire. So the Lord Brahma sent a priest to call her. She said, a voice came, I'm still in the process of getting ready. You know, the ladies take a long time to get ready. The wives of the other gods and holy men have also not come. It will look odd if I enter the assembly alone by myself. Some household affairs also need to be sorted out. I'll come in a while, said Saraswati. Now the priest returned and gave her message to Brahma. So she's still getting ready. Sire, we must start with the proceedings because the timing has to be correct. The positions of all the planets have to be aligned. The sun has to be in the right position. The moon has to be in the right position. So it's getting late, reminded another priest. The auspicious time period will soon be over, and then the efforts put in by everyone will go to waste. Yes, you're right, agreed and irritated Brahma now. But unless you have a wife by your side, the rites will be of no use, reminded the deities. Brahma was very angry by the irresponsible behavior of Saraswati, and seeing to the need of the situation, he called upon Indra, who is the chief among all the deities of heaven. He said, Indra, go and find me a wife from wherever you can, ordered Brahma. And Indra hastened. He saw a beautiful young milkmaid carrying a jar of butter. What is your name? Asked Indra. Gayatri, she replied. She was very shy. Come with me immediately, he said, and brought her to the assembly. Now Vishnu and Shiva, these are the two other aspects of this god, gave her away in marriage, and Gayatri thus became the second wife of Brahma. Gods and holy sages continued with the sacrifice. Please continue, said Brahma. Gayatri will now become the mother of the Vedas and bring purity to the three worlds. So accompanied by Parvati, remember Parvati, see, is Shiva's wife, and Lakshmi, that's Vishnu's wife, and Saraswati, they came to the place of the sacrifice. And when she saw Gayatri dressed in bridal clothes sitting next to her husband, she was mad with anger. Oh Brahma, you have rejected me and married another woman. Have you no shame? You have humiliated me in front of everyone. I can't show my face to anyone. How dare you insult me like this? Saraswati said. Brahma tried to explain the situation to Saraswati and asked her to forgive him, but she was in no mood to listen. By the powers that I have acquired, she said, by doing penance and meditation, that's the only way we acquire any powers. So, I hereby curse you, Brahma. You will never be worshipped in any temple or sacred place other than Pushka, proclaimed Saraswati. Now that is why there's only one temple to Brahma in the whole of the place, and that is in Pushka. She then pronounced a curse on Indra, because he was also responsible. Also Vishnu and Shiva and anybody else she could think of, because they had helped Brahma get married. And in a huff, she left the assembly, accompanied by Lakshmi and the other goddesses, because they all are aspects of each other. They're all sisters. After a while, they expressed their desire to return, and in a moment of need, you are deserting me, cried Saraswati, you, my sisters. And seething with anger, she again pronounced a curse. O Lakshmi, since you are forsaking me, may you never remain stationary. From now you will dwell not just with the worthy and the just, but also with the wicked and the depraved, the sinful and the immoral. That's why we have these different things. Saraswati then protected the Mount Ratnagiri and disappeared into the mountain, and at that very place a small cascade of water gushed out. Later a temple was dedicated to that Saraswati. It was built there. But ever since, no prayers are offered to Brahma in any temple. And that is why there's only one temple to Brahma. What is the meaning of that story? The meaning is really that this whole universe comes from this Saraswati. Just as this whole universe comes from this movement also of Shiva. That's another way of thinking about it. And when he moves, what energy does he move? So Saraswati is what's called Shakti. A Shakti, the energy of Brahma. And Lakshmi is called Shakti, the energy of Vishnu. And Parvati is the Shakti, the energy of Shiva. So even though you cannot see Shiva, Shiva's energy, the fact that Shiva moves is because of Shakti.